We are the Environmental Studies Capstone class from the University of Oklahoma for the spring 2023 semester. First, we want to thank Dinavetta Davis, the president of the JFK Neighborhood Association, for her continued partnership with our class. We want to thank all of the members of the JFK Neighborhood Association for their work with us and recognize their continued community organizing for environmental health and justice in their neighborhood.
As a service learning course, we've been studying environmental justice, particularly the environmental injustices that the JFK neighborhood has been facing for decades. We've been focusing on the solutions to alleviate the environmental problems for the JFK neighborhood.
We held 2 focus group conversations with the JFK Neighborhood Association members to document their environmental health, home infrastructural damages, and overall justice concerns.
We sampled soil from 5 homes in the JFK neighborhood to understand more about the association between residential structural damage and the subsurface vibrations from the frequent explosions from the Derishborg recycling facility.
We will be presenting the key findings of 2 reports that our class has written this semester.
One report focuses on the discriminatory zoning practices and future legal ramifications. The other report focuses on the impacts of excessive subsurface vibrations occurring in the neighborhood due to the explosions from the Derishborg recycling facility.
We will be giving these reports to the JFK Neighborhood Association, as well as archiving them in the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Library, along with the focus group interviews with the JFK residents.
Over the course of the semester, our 2023 Environmental Studies Capstone course has worked with the John F. Kennedy neighborhood located in Oklahoma City concerning an environmental injustice issue. The neighborhood is a historically Black neighborhood with a rich and vibrant culture that dates back to pre-statehood. One focus of the class has been to look into issues of Oklahoma City zoning laws and how they negatively and disproportionately affect the John F. Kennedy neighborhood. The JFK neighborhood is zoned as R1, meaning single-family residential, while the area that directly lies across the street is zoned as I3, meaning heavy industrial. This zoning decision is how large industrial companies like Citgo Petroleum Corporation and Derishborg Recycling Facility are allowed to operate within just yards of family homes. Additionally, Frederick Douglass High School is located adjacently to Citgo Petroleum. The zoning decision reflects a racist history in which white Oklahomans fled the area because of the budding industrial industries nearby, forcing Black residents to live on the undesirable land. The industrial companies pose health hazards, disturb the land, and decrease home value. Moving forward, new zoning laws should be introduced in Oklahoma City to prevent and fix the legal discrimination that has occurred in the JFK neighborhood for decades.
The John F. Kennedy neighborhood was originally founded prior to statehood. The neighborhood is situated just north of the North Canadian River between 4th Street and 8th Street and the eastern and western boundaries of Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue and Lincoln Boulevard. Prior to segregation in Oklahoma City, the area was a prime location for wealthy white businessmen and families because of its proximity to the railways. As environmental quality declined from the growth of heavy industry and railway traffic, the neighborhood began to lose its desirability. Environmental conditions led white residents to abandon the space and relocate to the northern and western sides of town. In 1907, when Oklahoma City became an official state in the Union, the first Jim Crow Oklahoma state laws were passed. Subsequent municipal ordinances imposing residential segregation on Black OKC residents were also passed. These Jim Crow laws restricted Black residents to flood-prone spaces known as modern-day JFK neighborhood. Throughout the 1900s, oil and gas zoning was imposed at the margins of present-day JFK. The residents felt the impact of heavy industry in and around their neighborhoods. For residents of JFK, the oil booms in the 1930s helped develop economic stability but came at a cost of environmental health and legal entanglements with surrounding oil royalties. The issues caused by this new oil industry persisted well into the late 1900s, leading to several Superfund sites within a mile of the JFK neighborhood by the turn of the century. Today, the neighborhood faces a plethora of issues resulting from industrial zoning. Loud booms from the Derishborg recycling plant cause structural damage to residents' homes and disturbances to their daily lives. Zinc releases by the Citgo Petroleum Refinery raises concerns over air quality and public health. White particle substances from the Haskell Lemon Construction Company covers cars, plants, outdoor furniture, and likely makes it difficult for residents to breathe. Fires at Height Plastics cause concern for health and welfare to the neighbors. Noise pollution from the Union Pacific Railroad and surrounding construction companies decrease property values and contribute to a general disturbance of the people nearby. Of the many issues, the most important has been Deersport Recycling Center explosions. The Deersport Recycling Center explosions impact the Gateway Learning Center, Toby Keith's OK Kids Corral, a center for cancer treatment, Paul Lawrence Dunbar Elementary School, apartment buildings, historic Douglas High School, residential housing, and other Black-owned businesses all located within the bounds of the neighborhood. Just on the margins of the neighborhood are other important entities like the Booker T. Washington Park, Frederick Douglass High School, James E. Stewart Golf Course, Douglas Park, the historic Jewel Theater, Oklahoma Medical Center, and more.
My experience with the JFK Neighborhood Association has been as eye-opening as it has been inspirational. I came into this with a basic knowledge of environmental justice and a desperation to help this neighborhood in any way that I could. However, witnessing the environmental justice issues and hearing the JFK residents voice their concerns brought this to a new light for me personally. This community really is a working and functioning family of individuals from diverse backgrounds that care about one another deeply. Each member of the community I conversed with had their own list of valid environmental justice concerns, but at the center of it all was a sense of community. You really could feel it in every conversation you had with this community. I think that in my main takeaway from this experience going forward in my future career path. Behind these discussions are real and unique people that just want the same quality of life that all of us are privileged with having.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Legg, and I'm a PhD student here at the University of Oklahoma studying critical zone biogeochemistry. I led the lab and field investigation portion of this Capstone project, where we were able to sample urban soils and characterize them in the field. The reason why we do this is because urban soils and soils within the JFK neighborhood are very distinct from the surrounding soils around them. They were formed on top of the former floodplain of the North Canadian River. Furthermore, the soils in the neighborhood serve as the foundation for all the structures in the neighborhood, as well as a conduit by which the energy from the vibrations from the explosions at the Deersport Recycling Facility are transmitted to each structure. And so with that, I would like to pass this on to another student who will talk more about some of the things we did in the field and some of our findings.
We use an auger to sample the soils at the residences, where we examined the properties such as color and texture. We recorded our findings and found that due to the dynamic nature of the former floodplains, the soils were likely to derive from, the soil properties varied greatly. We found very sandy soils, known as loamy sand, and we also found soils with a higher clay content, called silty clay.
In order to better monitor the structural damage caused by the explosions from the Deersport recycling plant, we would need to use an accelerometer. An accelerometer is a device that measures subsurface vibrations. However, this creates an issue of cost, as accelerometers are incredibly expensive and we would likely need to monitor multiple sites. However, the free app Firefox provides a cheaper alternative. Firefox is a free app available on iOS and Android that repurposes the latent sensors in our smartphones to act as scientific measurement devices, including an accelerometer. While this app provides an easy solution to the money problem, we would still need to find enough people to monitor the phones. We would likely have 6 sites with 2 phones each, a main one and a spare one. And these sites would be located throughout the JFK neighborhood in homes and businesses, anywhere that the phone could lie flat, undisturbed, on the floor during the operating hours of the Deersport plant. While there are many residents that we have already worked with in the past for interviews and other kinds of scientific data collection, we would preferably use businesses as they are more likely to have someone there during the operating hours of the plant.
Biodiversity is a spatial measurement of all the wildlife and their supporting structures in an area. A loss of biodiversity in an area subjected to man-made noise is an indicator of environmental degradation and also environmental injustice. And thus, this occurs more in communities experiencing nearby industrial activity. Typically, industrial and residential areas are not to be zoned near one another and are subjected to separate bylaws. This difference in standards calls into question what precedent should take priority, the ecological health of a residential zone or the industrial predominance of land use where biodiversity is greatly diminished.
While the Department of Environmental Quality is able to regulate air pollution measures, there is still a lack of oversight related to the many industrial fires that have occurred near the JFK neighborhood, several from the Deersburg recycling facility. Just last night at 1 a.m., May 8, 2023, there was a horrendous fire, a plastic fire at Hype Plastics, requiring 8 fire engine companies and 4 ladder companies, the hazmat and rescue units to attend, confine, and stop the blaze. Single incident explosions from the Deersburg have also released toxic fumes compromising air quality for the JFK residents. There must be regulations created to protect JFK residents from toxic air pollution from these frequent industrial fires near their homes and their neighborhood to protect their environmental health and quality of life.
Oklahoma City follows a Euclidean style of zoning, meaning that the city has the authority to distinguish between residential and industrial land uses in order to protect the public welfare and maintain the neighborhood's character. Because many American cities experienced their urbanization during the Jim Crow era, it is no surprise to find that the city's zoning laws, which have in essence been grandfathered into today's city planning, were designed to uphold race-based segregation. Heavy industry like that in and near the JFK neighborhood is exempt from most zoning regulations. While there are laws that prohibit discrimination in housing sales, there is no federal oversight or spatial benchmarks for industrial zoning adjacent to residential neighborhoods. The industries near JFK are therefore within their permits, but that does not mean the law is just. Some potential opportunities for policy remediation are as follows. We recommend that the city change its definition of hazardous industries, which would require facilities under this new classification to be at least 1,000 feet removed from residential properties. We further recommend that the municipal ordinances be updated to allow officers to cite for short percussive blasts. We encourage the DEQ to remove Deersburg's permit-exempt status and, during their subsequent inspections, use opacity as a factor for grading explosions. Lastly, we hope to see the DEQ or city create a task force or council dedicated to environmental justice that could dedicate more time, resources, and expertise to the situation.